Before we begin, I need to make sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about. The opening to the ultimate Disney classic The Lion King is a very dramatic sunrise over the Sahara, accompanied by singing in some language that nobody really knows the exact translation to. You know. That one? Yes. Okay, good. When I was about 4, I was obsessed with The Lion King. Everything about it captivated me. The drama, the music, the talking animals. I would line up my own tiny little plastic animals in neat rows and act out scenes, singing all the parts by myself and moving them about in choreography that seemed groundbreakingly brilliant. The only problem was Simba. I didn't have a lion toy. I had giraffes and birds and antelopes and buffaloes, even a lone hyena, but not a lion in sight. I substituted with a tiny house cat, but it felt wrong putting this sorry excuse for a lion through Simba's paces. He was the main character, for crying out loud, but that was all I had, and so I made do. Until I got that doll. Oh man, it was perfect. When I got it, I picked it up and cradled it to my chest like it was my firstborn child. Look at his mane! Look at his paws! He even had a tail that could be moved around emphatically for dramatic monologues. I got that stuffed animal and I didn't put it down for a solid 3 days. I made my mom take my picture with it. We went to the grocery store together. We visited Home Depot. I even remember stuffing him into the pocket of my coat when I went for a walk so he wouldn't get cold. That doll was my star, and he deserved only the best. Which was where the trouble arrived. We have a pellet stove in our living room, a wood-burning type that has a glass front so the flames aren't directly exposed. Supposedly it's safer for young kids because they can't just throw themselves directly in the fire, but me and my sister were warned to stay away because it was hot enough to burn your hands in a second and then your hands would get stuck to the glass. It was sufficiently terrifying to ensure neither of us went anywhere near it. But you see, when stoves are running, the glass inside turns to a beautiful orange-red rectangle. So I sat there with Simba, petting his mane, and I got what was possibly the worst idea of my childhood. Hey, I thought to myself, that stove looks just like the sunrise from The Lion King. I looked at Simba. I looked at the stove. I looked at my parents, and then I sprang into action. As stealthily as I could, I went up to my room and collected every single last animal I had. They all went into my ladybug backpack. I could barely zip it up. Stuffed animals, figurines, everything. I grabbed the yellow house cat, but I knew I wouldn't need him. Simba was there. Back to the stove. I had a vision. Every last animal was in perfect little arcs, ready to witness the beginning of greatness and the introduction of their king, just like in The Lion King. I hummed the opening that nobody knows to myself as the stove flickered and the animals marched towards the spectacle. By the time the opening song switched over to English, I was ready. All of my animals were in position. If they were humans, they'd be winning Tonys. I sang, making Simba walk dramatically up the center aisle of the animals. He was beautiful, amazing. I'd never seen a star like this. Oh my god. This was so cool. He looked so cool. He bowed, mane catching the light from the stove in such an awesome way that I got a horrible, horrible idea. I lifted him, pretending he was walking up Pride Rock. I was forgetting to keep my voice down, singing full volume, way too caught up in the moment. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the performance of a lifetime. The circle of life, I bellowed. 4-year-old me shoved Simba directly onto the burning hot glass of the pellet stove. There was an immediate sizzle, and the smell of burning things. I had a deep and sudden realization of the situation, completely filled with immediate dread and utter panic. In that moment, I felt the purest essence of, oh shit, before I even knew the words. I tried to pull my star away, but he was stuck to the glass. Everything I had been told about the stove seemed glaringly obvious to me now. I panicked and pulled harder, and Simba's stomach ripped off, and I went flying backwards from my effort, plastic stuffing pellets spilling out of him and his now lifeless body in my arms as the fabric on the glass sizzled on. Simba! I howled, ironically sounding like a fantastic Mufasa. As my mother and father came running, and the greatest show the world had never seen came to an abrupt halt. Sam, are you hurt? They said. And Simba was all I could say, watching visions of an encore drain away as fast as the stuffing spilled out of the gaping hole in Simba's side. There would not be a matinee performance that day. Honey, my dad said to me later, you know the stove is hot, right? He had turned off the stove and was now trying to scrape burnt Simba bits off the glass. Yeah, I was sitting, watching, Simba had been given a burial he deserved as king, a dignified one wrapped in the finest of burial shrouds, paper towels, and laid to rest in the graveyard of his royal blood, thrown in the kitchen trash can. His subjects attended, lined up on the counter. "Then why did you put it on the glass?" I thought for a moment, then sighed. "For the effect, Dad," I said seriously, and then turned my attention to my notebook in front of me. I had some new ideas for a show, and they needed work, so there was no time to waste on the past. The show must go on. Just like Mufasa hitting the bottom of the canyon, terrible things are necessary to inspire greatness. It was sacrifice for the greater good, if you will. It was Simba returning to fight his Uncle Scar on the fiery plains of Pride Rock. It was polyester fur singeing on a stove. It's how we find our place on the path unwinding. It's a circle. The circle of